I tried to make this video 6 months ago, but then a whoopsie happened and I accidentally deleted all of my footage and then I cried. Hi! Remember back in like 2010 when everyone with a Mac swore that Scrivener was the greatest thing since The Lord of the Rings, and everyone else was like, if you like Scrivener so much, why don't you marry it? I eventually caved under the peer pressure and gave Scrivener a go, and found that I hated it and everything about it. But the world has changed immensely since then, and so have I. For one, Scrivener seemingly has a new app to contend with every second day, and for another, I recently got inspiration for a new story and found that I desperately wanted story building software like Scrivener to help me along with it. Older and wiser, I decided to give Scrivener another chance. But I also decided to try every other piece of writing software to once and for all and ultimately determine which one is the best. Because let's face it, they all claim to be the best. But there can only be one. And because I like attention, I'm going to drag you along my journey and slow, painful descent into madness to figure out which one that is. So grab a cuppa, or something stronger, because this is probably going to be the longest video I've ever made in my life. Before I get started on the deep dive, there is quite a bit of ground that I have to cover, starting with a disclaimer or two. First and foremost, I am not sponsored by or affiliated with any of the products, brands, or services I am going to talk about in this video. Secondly, I'm going to remain as objective and fair as is possible when talking about the software, but there's still an element of opinion here. My writing needs and preferences might not match yours, and therefore the software that I like for writing might not be the software that you like for writing. If you are looking for writing software that you can try or use or invest in, I really do hope that this video will help you find what you're looking for, but at the end of the day, I went down this rabbit hole to find the best writing software for me. I am not the authority on this topic, and I'm not speaking for everyone, so use your discretion and feel free to disagree. Now, speaking of the software, for the sake of simplicity and also time, I am going to focus exclusively on software that is designed for story development. This means that for the software to qualify, it has to have specific and deliberate novel writing features. It could be anything in line with this, like features for plotting, or features for world building, or features for outlining, whatever, as long as it was designed for novel writers. So, this means that I am excluding a couple of things, including word processors, task management software like Trello or Jira, note-taking apps like Evernote, design and publishing software like Vellum, and editing software including Grammarly and ProWriting Aid. But speaking of ProWriting Aid, I have a favor to ask y'all. In case you didn't know, ProWriting Aid has a referral system under which, if you can get 20 people to sign up for ProWriting Aid and try it out, they give you a lifetime license for free. And I desperately need that in my life. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post the referral link in the description, and if you'd be so kind as to try it out, you will become my favorite person. I think I've got like 4 people so far, so there's still a ways to go, but I would really appreciate it if you would help me out with this. I just need to explain quickly that it only applies to new ProWriting Aid accounts, and you have to actually test out the software, like just in the browser. You don't have to download it or anything, but you have to like take it for a test run for it to count. So, if you've never tried ProWriting Aid, now would be the time, using my referral link. Anyway, back to the video. Now, on top of the qualifiers, there are a few other considerations that will factor into whether or not I like the software or feel it's worth a damn or worth using. Number 1, ease of use. The less time I have to spend learning how to use the software, the happier I'll be. Number 2 is functionality. If the software has a ton of cool and useful features and it runs smoothly on my piece of crap laptop, I will be very happy indeed. Number 3 is very important, and that is offline capabilities. See, I live in a country that gets load shedding, as you can see. So there really isn't any point in me signing up or paying for software that I can't use when the power goes out and the Wi-Fi goes down. So if the software doesn't have an offline mode, it's immediately disqualified from the running. Number 4 is fairly simple, and that is Windows and Android compatibility, because I do not use Apple devices. So if it's not compatible with Windows or Android, but I'm focusing on desktop software here, if it's not compatible with Windows, it's also immediately disqualified, because how the hell am I supposed to test the software, you know? Number 5 is value for money on a couple of different accounts. So first and foremost, the cheaper the software, the better, obviously. But on top of that, I'm also looking at how the software is priced, like its tier system and stuff like that. And also, I would much rather prefer a once-off payment for paid software than subscriptions. Also, if it is paid software and it doesn't have a free trial, it's immediately disqualified too. And number 6 is its interface and its aesthetic and its look and its feel. This isn't a deal breaker, but the nicer the software is to use, the more bonus points it will get. This is purely a matter of taste. I just don't like it when my creative writing things feel like a chore. And I have noticed that the prettier the software is and the more fun it is to use, the less my writing feels like a chore. So all the bonus points are at stake here. Some of the more popular or well-known writing tools were excluded from this video, and I just want to take a moment to explain why, so that you don't think I overlooked anything or wonder why they didn't rank. Novelo seems to be more of a productivity app, and as far as I could see, it doesn't have any story development features. Reedsy also seems to be more of an editing tool, and it doesn't seem to have an offline feature. Neither does Plot Factory or Story Planner. Storyist is for Mac and iOS only, and Scribbler doesn't work offline, and I think it's an AI writing tool. That said, I'm willing to make another video like this trying the ones that were disqualified, so let me know if you are interested in that, and I will happily oblige. That said, there are a few products that didn't quite make the cut for whatever reason that I feel are still worth a mention. Number 1 is Dramatica. Dramatica is story development software that focuses on analyzing your story to make it more effective. According to the website, Dramatica is based on a unique storytelling theory that views storytelling as an argument that the writer needs to justify. It pretty much assumes that if you can't defend the decisions you've made in your story, that there are inconsistencies in it, and that the story is ultimately weighed down and meaningless. Dramatica forces you to take an honest look at your own work, and to figure out how what you create fits into everything else and into the bigger picture. It has a demo version that you can't save anything in. Otherwise, it is available for $119 at the time of making this video. Obviously, that applies to all of the prices that I'm going to mention. And it seems like if you purchase it, you get discounted upgrades, but I don't quite know how that works. I tested it out and found that it's not quite for me. I wanted to show you what it looks like when you input your story into Dramatica, but then I accidentally closed it while I was working on it, and since it's a demo, it didn't save my progress. It was very time consuming. I don't want to do that again. So here's just a basic look at Dramatica. It's unsightly, it's not user friendly, and it looks like it's stuck in 1999. So what I was doing was the story guide. It basically says that it will hold your hand through the creation of your story. Level 1 has 60 questions, level 2 75 questions, and level 3 about 250 questions. You answer all of these questions, and it basically analyzes your story and points out like certain dynamics, certain conflicts that your character should have, and just how you should direct the flow of your story. I didn't really get much benefit from using Dramatica in the little test run that I took it for, at least not in terms of plotting and planning and actually developing my story, but I will admit that in filling out the information and doing the questionnaire and stuff like that, I noticed things about my characters and their dynamics that I had never noticed before. Then it's got a characters feature, but it is incredibly dumb and basic. I mean, you can put in, like, the character information and stuff, but, like, these icons are terrible. I didn't really get to explore anything else before I accidentally closed the software, but as you can see, it's got a plot progression chart, theme browser, story engine, it's got story points, reports, and like a brainstorming thing along with some other very basic functions. I really do feel like Dramatica would be a big help to writers who need a little bit of help in putting their story together, and it seems pretty cool if you would rather like analyze your story or work out plot holes and stuff like that. It's just not what I'm looking for right now, and even if it was, I don't think I would spend $100 on software that looks like that. That's not to say that the software is bad though. I actually think that it's pretty cool and works insanely well, and I was genuinely surprised by it, so look into it if you like. It might be what you need to fix your story. Number 2 is Aeon Timeline. I stumbled upon Aeon Timeline in my research for this video months and months ago, and even though it's not for me, I never forgot about it, but instead of explaining what it's supposed to be for, I'm just going to show you what it does. So this is the read-only version of Aeon Timeline because my trial expired. But in this example, they're using Murder on the Orient Express to show you what the software can do. So this is the timeline. That's what it looks like. You can plan your entire story hour by hour if you really wanted to. This is the spreadsheet view. This is the relationship window. I don't really know how this works. Then it has this subway view that I suppose just connects everything and everyone to each other, which is pretty cool, not gonna lie. This is the narrative window, where I'm assuming you just plot your story with cards. Here's the outline view, and the mind map, which I think is pretty cool, especially if you need, like, family trees, for example, if you're a high fantasy writer, if you want to write the next Game of Thrones, this might come in handy. Aeon Timeline might be the bee's knees for, like, data-heavy writers, like, if you write high fantasy, or science fiction, or crime fiction, or historical, or mystery, or non-fiction, but beyond that, it doesn't really have all that much going for it. I also feel like even if it would be useful to you as a historical or high fantasy writer, you would still have to use it in conjunction with other writing software. I absolutely have no need for such complex storytelling webs, but Aeon Timeline is a pretty cool piece of software that does what it does really, really well. So if you are a data-heavy storyteller, maybe check it out. It costs $75 once off, so take this information and do with it what you will. And number 3 is World Anvil. World Anvil was supposed to rank in this video, and then at the very last minute I realized that it doesn't have an offline mode, and therefore it got disqualified, so I'm just going to turn it into an honorable mention. I have a paid subscription for World Anvil, and I really do like what I see, but I'm going to explore it in a future video, so I didn't want to put effort into, you know, screen recording and using it and fucking around in it, because I want to save those energies for the next video like this that I have planned. More on that later. That said, I just wanted to tell you that World Anvil is revered as one of, if not the best world-building software you could possibly find on this earth. Like I said, I have a subscription for it, I'm still getting used to it, but it is comprehensive AF. It has a free tier with some conditions, and it has a couple of pricey paid tiers, but it works, and it's good, and it's detailed, and it's the popular choice, and it might be worth checking out. Now it's time for some dishonorable mentions. Number 1 is Bibisco. I tried to use it the last time I tried to make this video 6 months ago. I tried to use it now, and every single time it crashed as soon as it opened. So what more could be said here? It would be great if your software worked, but it doesn't. So it can fuck off. Number 2 is Manuscript. I tried Manuscript maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and I cannot think of a single thing I actually liked about it. I didn't like its interface, it wasn't user-friendly, and it crashed randomly every single time I tried to use it. But still, I was willing to put it in this video. 6 months ago, when I tried to screen record myself using manuscript, it crashed randomly. This time around, I tried to re-download manuscript, and it looks like it doesn't exist anymore. But I don't know, maybe they just abandoned the website or something like that. I tried on my laptop, I tried on my phone, I can't download manuscript, it's not there anymore, and it's like, why is your software so bad? And then why is your website not working on top of that? Like, manuscript is terrible. I don't even have to use it again to tell you that it's terrible. I'm sorry if you like manuscript, but it's more trouble than it's worth. I have given manuscript more chances than it deserves, and I don't care if it's free, it's trash. And number 3 is Write It Now. This is what happened when I tried to install Write It Now.
What?
So yeah, hell no. And that just about covers all of the front matter, so without further ado, let's test some writing software now. So here's how this was done. First, I scoured the internet to figure out which software should make it onto this list and which ones I should try. At first I had a list of 21 different programs that I wanted to try, but after doing some research, a lot of them were disqualified on account of being Mac only or not having an offline mode. Not to mention the Dishonourable Mentions. That left me with 8 different programs to try, namely Wavemaker, NovelPad, Dabble, Plottr, yWriter, Campfire, Novel Factory, and of course, Scrivener. I installed and tested each one of these programs using the first 4 chapters of my book, The Fifth Warrior, and a couple of details and characters from the Disincarnate series. What I did was I created a very simple, very basic Google Doc, just filled with information that I could then go and input into the different software so that I would be testing them all with the same thing. I made chapter summaries, I wrote up like character descriptions, added some notes, and just some small bits and bobs of information to do with the Fifth Warrior and the first 4 chapters of it. From there, I really did do my best to cover all bases and give each and every one of these programs a fair chance. But, that said, I didn't use a rubric or anything like that, so my findings that I will report at the end of this video are based wholeheartedly and exclusively on user experience. In particular, the user experience that I had when I was testing them. Now, for the brunt of this video, here is what happened. Wavemaker is actually a progressive web app, which I realize have little to no security issues, but it still didn't quite sit right with me. That said, it does have like a desktop app / launcher, so good for it. Also, it is 100% free to use, so I suppose it gets bonus points in that regard. But I'm not sure if it's Wavemaker or if it's the laptop that I use, but every time I tried to use it, my laptop would slow to a crawl, so it loses points for that. Wavemaker's website is very generic. It claims to make structuring, planning, note-taking, and researching a whole lot easier, but there doesn't seem to be anything groundbreaking about it. Its features are also incredibly basic. So after taking 12 business days to start up, this is what you see when you open Wavemaker. Now, just to reiterate, I added all of the information beforehand, just so that this video didn't come out 40 years long, but this is what you see. These are its features. You have my books, my mind maps, my snowflakes, my timeline, my grid planners, and my cards, and these are the exact same things that are up here. So let's just explore each one of them really quickly, starting with my books. So when you click on my books, you get this screen. It's really basic and nothing special. Here you can see that you can export it to Google Docs if you want to, and it has this little word counter here. And then on the side, you have the actual book. So this is what it looks like in the text editor. I'm not crazy about the formatting, but it could also be that I copied and pasted the text in here. But once I did, I could not get rid of the spaces between the paragraphs, which is kinda hella annoying. These are like the little sections that you have, the scenes, if you will. I just worked with the first 4 chapters of The Fifth Warrior, but yeah, it looks good. It's just the formatting that's kind of infuriating. I don't know why that's highlighted. I think I was testing out the highlighting. Can you see how fucking slow this is? How do I take it away? Now, oh Lord. Did that take... No, it did not. Never mind. Moving on to the formatting. You have bold, italic, strike through. Have paragraph settings that don't really do anything. You have headings. You can add images, lists. You can switch to the planning board if you want to, but we'll get to that eventually. This little feature is useless but cool. It's just a typewriter view. And that's literally all, but I like it. You can highlight, as we just saw. And I don't know what this button does, to be honest. Oh, it's the word counter. So onto the planning boards. It's really just like a little Kanban board, however you pronounce that. I don't actually know. So here at the top, you can see the different chapters / scenes, and then you can add little note cards inside of it. I made 2 just as an example. That's just a basic one saying what I have to write and what I have to edit. It's just so that I could see what it looked like. But when you create a new card, this is what pops up. And you can add notes. You can display the notes with that one. You can add tags and you can elaborate if you want to. It has an image manager, but I could not for the life of me get images to load. And also, if you wanted to, you could move the cards around and you can select them once they're done. It's nice, but that's about it. Then onto the mind maps. They're just fucking terrible. I'm sorry. Like, as you can see here, why can't I link ideas? And why can't I add images? Because this is what happened when I tried to add images. I wonder if it's still doing that. Let's find out. Let's try this picture of Jimmy. See, it's loading the picture there, but then, like, what do I do? There's literally nothing that I can do here. I can scroll this thing unnecessarily, and that's it. And then when I close that, then there's no image. This mind map is one of the worst things I have ever seen, and I hate it. Then you have the snowflakes, which don't really work. You're supposed to use the snowflake method in the way that you start with a long summary, and then you break it down into your beginning, middle, and end, but there are some issues with this particular one. The snowflake feature that it has might be something that new writers are attracted to, but Wavemaker done fucked up. While researching how it's supposed to work, because I don't use the snowflake method, but I wanted to try it, I stumbled upon a couple of complaints that it implemented it completely incorrectly, because it deletes your initial cards, which it's not supposed to do, because that defeats the purpose of the snowflake method, so keep that in mind. Then there's a timeline, which is all right, I suppose. I can't complain about the timeline. It's one of the only good things about the software. The grid planner is not that good. Very basic, and I think the whole premise of the grid planner is that you can add images and have like a visual, or rather a visualization of your story or your notes or whatever, but the images don't work, so this grid is absolutely pointless. And then you have the cards, which are literally just cards. There isn't really anything else that I can say about it. Here are some that I was messing around with that are blank, and then the ones that I actually ended up using. It's nice enough, it's good enough, it's not terrible,
but there aren't any standout features here.
Wavemaker also has an open AI assistant, but you do need an API key to use it, but I figured I would mention it.
The settings are very, very basic. I didn't mess around with the theme or anything like that because I didn't feel the need to. And then you can save your file and you can sync it with Google Drive, and that's about it.
You can download your work in Wavemaker, but it saves it in WM4 format, which is like, what? Why? You can also export your manuscript as a Google Doc if you would like to, but I didn't really care about that, so I didn't test it out. I don't know if it works properly or if it looks good when it's exported. I'm assuming it is, though, because it seems to be heavily associated with Google Chrome, so I'm assuming it's optimized for that, but I didn't try it. The pros of Wavemaker are: it's straightforward, it has super handy features for content writers or even content creators, its typewriter gimmick is useless, but it is amusing, and it's pretty. It does have a manuscript feature, so you can write and plot and plan all in the same space, which is great. It gets bonus points for that. It could really help with project management, productivity, and tracking, and it's free. But its one and only con is that everything kinda sucks. Like, most things about Wavemaker kinda suck. Its interface sucks. Its formatting sucks. Its snowflake feature thing sucks. Its mind map and its grid planner are atrocious. And also they suck. Its functions are incredibly limited. It's slow, and like its images don't load, and it has performance issues, and that sucks too. So here's what I think about it. I really don't think that Wavemaker is worth it for long form writers, even if it is free. Go ahead and try it if you focus on short stories or blog articles, or like short form content. Or even if you're looking for a free tool that you can use to plan, script, and schedule your YouTube videos or other content, I think that it would be pretty damn great for that. But not for book writing. 3 out of 10. NovelPad says that it helps you write, edit, and organize your story anytime, anywhere, online, offline, any device. It boasts an easy-to-use, distraction-free editor, drag-and-drop scene cards, and spelling and grammar checks that are powered by Pro Writing Aid, which is pretty cool. But other than that, there doesn't really seem to be anything special about NovelPad, if that makes sense. It's paid software with a 2-week trial, otherwise it is $15 a month or $120 a year to be able to work on up to 100 novels and enjoy the benefits of the bare minimum in writing software.
This is what I see when I log into NovelPad. I don't think you can add a cover image, maybe you can, I'm not sure. But anyway, so one thing I noticed was that it auto-filled this information up here, but I don't know what this thingy is supposed to be for, but maybe I am just dumb, I don't know. The formatting is fine, I guess it's a bit wonky, but maybe that's because I copied and pasted the text into the software instead of typing inside the editor. NovelPad has an option for comments, but obviously this manuscript doesn't have any comments in it. You can highlight things, but I didn't highlight anything, and you can disable your formatting drop down, but that's irrelevant. Here's the overview of the chapters and the scenes within the chapters, which looks pretty nice, I guess. It's just a little bit dull. You can color code some things if you really want to, but that's about as interesting as it gets. If you click on the cards, it's got a few options here. You can edit it in the manuscript, obviously. You can create a revision, you can remove it, you can share it, delete it, you can split the chapter after that. Here's where you can color code it, and you can select which chapter it's supposed to be a part of or which one you want to view. You can add the locations from your story, you can add the plot points from your story, and that's pretty much it. So here is where you can add your plot points. It's really not that interesting. It's basically the same thing as the chapter cards.
One of the first things that I noticed about NovelPad is that its interface is sleek, but kinda hella boring, and also that it's super disappointing that you can't add images, particularly to your character slots. If you can, I couldn't figure out how to do that, so I'm assuming you can't.
So the character view is very, very basic, and there isn't all that much that you can do here. This is all that you can add to the characters. This was what I copied and pasted from my Google Doc. There's literally nothing else to see here. But what is cool is that based on the names of the characters, it will auto-populate the scenes that they are involved in, which I honestly can't really see that much use for, but it's still pretty cool and fascinating.
I also noticed a severe lack of world-building features. In fact, I don't think it has any at all.
The locations are pretty basic too. It's really just to mark where the scene is taking place. So here under Insights, it's pretty cool if you want to take a look at your story at a glance. You can sort it by chapters or plots or locations, characters, dates, or even the colors. Those are the ones that are color-coded. So that's pretty cool if you're trying to, I don't know, have like a bird's eye view of your story or just sort through it very quickly. And then it has this nifty little project tracker, which I suppose would come in handy for writers who are invested in such things. I'm not really outside of NaNoWriMo, and I haven't participated in NaNoWriMo in a good few years, so it wouldn't really be of much use to me, but it's still nice that they included this little tracker in there. It also has a little feature to add a writing sprint or a break that you're taking from your writing. Then it's got a notes page, but what can I say? It's not that great. I didn't even fill in the information. You can save your progress or the project that you're working on. You can also download your novel, and even though the formatting is pretty limited, it's quite cool that you can include what you want to export. As for the settings, it's got a few formatting options, like with your fonts and your text size, line spacing, the usuals. Other than that, the settings are very basic and there isn't that much customization in here, but I suppose that's fine. The last thing that I want to show you is the text editor here, which is very straightforward. It's not that terrible, but it has almost no formatting options here apart from what you set in the actual settings, and that's it for the software.
Also, it crashed for no good reason while I was using it, so that was fun. I tried to export my novel to see what it would look like, but you can only export to docx, and I don't use Microsoft Word, so then I tried to use MS Word Online, and it refused to load the document. I waited a really long time, and it just refused to upload it. So I don't know if its exports are any good. I really did try to check, but I'm not going to install Microsoft Word just to tell you whether or not NovelPad works properly. The pros of NovelPad are, it's intuitive and easy to use, it's super simple and straightforward, its automation is pretty handy, and I can see how it saves time, although a lot of it felt unnecessary, but I'm going to count it as a pro, because it's pretty cool that it does that. And its tracker is really nice and really handy. As for the cons, it's boring and not really that aesthetic. Some features are completely fucking useless, and also its functionality is limited. There's literally nothing you can do to world build in the software, and it crashed. Overall, NovelPad is okay. Plotters, planners, and goal trackers will probably have a lot of fun with it, and it works really well as like a sort of overarching productivity and note-taking app for writers, but I just don't think that it's worth $15 a month. I absolutely wouldn't recommend NovelPad to world builders or story developers because its functionality is just too limited to justify using it. I'm gonna give it 5 out of 10. So I actually stumbled upon Dabble on TikTok. Some guy was going out of his way to fervently but incorrectly explain Chekhov's gun and completely hyping Dabble up as a way to keep track of his story and make sure that it doesn't end up, like empty and inconsistent and full of plot holes. In retrospect, I think that video might have been sponsored and he just didn't disclose it because he was absolutely raving about Dabble to the point that I decided I was going to try it out. And I did. And it's completely mediocre. Writing app for writers, yada yada. Plan, organize, yada yada. Cliche false promises, yada yada. Do it all with this one piece of software, yada yada. You get a 14-day free trial, or it's $10 for basic writing functionality, $15 for story development features, or $20 for all of that, and then editing and collaboration features on top of that. I started the trial for the standard one, or the $15 one, because the basic was just way too limited, and I really don't give a shit about the premium features.
So this is what you see when you open Dabble. You can add cover art. Mine looks a little bit wonky. It'll look better in a second. Also, this isn't the official cover art. It's just one that I was playing around with. This is what the manuscript looks like. See, the cover looks a lot better now that it's not squished. The formatting is fine, I suppose. There just aren't really that many options. Like, I don't even see the formatting toolbar anywhere, but maybe that's my own fault. Ignore the red lines. I'm still editing this particular book. It looks nice. I just wish that it was a little bit cleaner, but maybe that's my own fault because of the copying and pasting as usual, but at least the font is nice. It feels very sleek and it's nice to look at, so it's got that going for it. Here on the side is where your different scenes and sections are, so you can navigate through them really easily. And then we have the plot menu. So here's what the outline looks like. It's really nothing special. I mean, yes, you have color coding, you have your scenes, you have your plot points, but like that's literally it. Like it's not terrible, but it's not particularly exciting either. And then yeah, here's an overview of the scenes, which really is not as good as other software that I've seen.
Dabble's layout is kinda terrible, not gonna lie.
And it's weird that it's all like just in this straight line, and I don't know if you can change the view. I don't think you can, but yeah, it's very, very basic and minimalist. And then you have your story notes, which are customizable, so I think the folders that existed, like, that were pre-formatted with the characters and the world building, but I don't remember if I added the world building one myself. The way that this works is basically you have folders within folders. So when you have a file in one of those folders, I created one for the Elemental Warriors, for secondary characters, and for Disincarnate. Then you can add files to it. So here's one for Damien. That's what Damien looks like. My friend drew that picture of her. You have to input the information yourself. It doesn't have templates or anything like that. It's basically the same as typing everything out in Google Docs, printing it out, and filing it in a physical file. So you can do that for all of your characters if you want to. Here's Nailka. Here's Sam. Here's Jimmy, who you already saw. And here's Matthew. And I have one more picture of Marshall. There's Marshall. So even though you can categorize it and separate them and have your little separations there, what happens is it sticks it all together in one document. So I suppose that's handy for printing purposes, or if you want it all in the same place. Anything that you stick under story notes will appear in this document, which is good enough, I guess. And other than that, there's really nothing to write home about in this program. I mean, there is a goals and stats tab, but as you can see, mine is not very interesting. It's basically just a word counter You can add notes, obviously, and you can comment or collaborate depending on the tier that you're on. And then as for its settings, they're sort of in between basic and detailed. So you can input your project details. You can choose whether or not you want to spell check or check for grammar. But again, I think that might be part of the tier that you're on. And then there's collaboration things that you can set here. Your author information if you're going to publish or export it at least. You can share it. You can set your formatting. And that is really all that there is to know about Dabble.
And once again, its exporting is pretty damn limited. It exports to docx and txt, which is useless to me. The pros of Dabble are that it looks nice, and it works well for what it's trying to be. The cons are that it's limited, and that there's no free tier, and like NovelPad, I really don't think that it's worth the price they're asking you to pay for it. Dabble is literally just meh. It doesn't suck, but it's not great. And also, it didn't inspire me to become the writer I want to be either, as it so boldly claims on its website. That is false advertising. In fact, it just made me want to look for more interesting software, to be honest. I know that that sounds harsh, but like I said, it's just meh. Yeah. Dabble works, and that's literally all that I can say about it. Use it if you want. It's not terrible, but I promise it's not going to change your life or your writing either. There are better apps out there.
Whoops, I forgot to rate Dabble. It gets a solid 5 out of 10.
So let's step away from the writing for a moment and focus on outlining. See, Plottr has no manuscript or editing features at all. As the website says, you can use it to visualize how your story will play out, and that's it. Although it does have 1 or 2 world-building features, but you'll see. It's $40 a year on its most basic plan, or $140 for a lifetime license.
This is what you see when you open Plottr. Let's actually start with the settings this time because they're so basic. Yeah, there is really nothing that you can customize or play around with in the software, but anyway, that is not important. Here's what this project is looking like. It also has this little cover art feature, but it's so whack because it doesn't fit on the mockup and it's strange. And yeah, you can put in some basic information there. That's under the project tab, by the way. Then here by timeline is, I'm assuming, what most people use Plottr for. It just looks nice and it's super easy to use. What is the main plot of chapter 5? That's literally all that you have to do. And then you have a nice little timeline of your actual story. There are spelling errors. I'm sorry, I'm not paying attention to what I'm typing. If you click on the little card itself, and you have some more detailed information that you can add. You can color code it. You can go into more detail. You can add attributes if you want to, or you can use these writing templates, which are pretty cool. It's really just a guide for what you should be doing depending on what you are trying to write or looking for, but I think that that is pretty handy. By the way, you can sort and filter everything up here if you want to, and also you can customize the timeline that you're seeing. It's very basic, but it's nice that they have these things. And then here, if you say restructure timeline, then you can move these things around if you really want to. Also, if you want to, you can flip the timeline so that it's stacked. I guess it's just a matter of preference or how much room you need in either direction, but that's a handy little feature. Then when it comes to the outline, it's a little bit more boring and basic, but again, it's not terrible. Can describe the chapters or the plots if you want to. You can do a little bit of formatting there. Can add characters, places, and tags. and then it populates your subplots and stuff into here as well if you want to go into more detail and plan them out. So that's what that looks like. Then it has a notes feature, but I'm not crazy about the notes. They're very plain, and I don't know, I'm just not crazy about them. I don't like the way that they look or the way that they work. I prefer like sticky notes and stuff, but yeah, you can add there if you really want to, and that's what you see when you do. You can add images, but they'll just appear like on the side of the screen. I'll show you in a moment with the characters.
I would say that Plottr is extremely useful if you are building or designing your characters.
So this is the character section. It's still in that sort of whack setup that the notes are in, but it's not terrible because I suppose that it's just for reference at the end of the day. I do like this character list that it generates here, and this is what I was talking about with the pictures just being on the side. But let me show you one of the character sketches here. So this is the copied and pasted information, and these are the things that are generated here that you can fill in if you want to. Let me edit this quickly though, because what you can do is add a template, which is filled with questions or prompts that you can fill in about your character. It also has Dungeons and Dragons character sheets and monster sheets and stuff like that, so that's pretty cool. It's got a whole bunch of things that you can go off here if you want to create a character from scratch or develop a character that you already have, or just for fun. Like, there's so much here, I literally couldn't go through it all. So that's really cool about this. And then, yeah, you can label your character, tag your character, add the images, obviously. And it's surprisingly detailed considering what Plottr is supposed to be for. But then for places, it's just really basic and boring again. Don't know what else to say here. And then here you can sort your tags, you can color code them, you can add new ones, can categorize things if you really want to. And then another cool feature is that you can export to Scrivener with this thing. Also, if you choose advanced exporting, you can choose what you actually want to export, which I think is pretty handy.
The pros of Plottr are that it's super simple and super fun to use. It's hella intuitive. It doesn't pretend to be something that it's not. It has a once-off payment lifetime license option. It's really good for character design, and it has a mobile app too. The cons are that it really doesn't have all that much going for it in terms of world building. It's not much to look at, and it's kinda expensive considering how basic it is. I mean, to portray this to you in terms you'll understand, Plottr's lifetime license costs more than Scrivener, which has all the features. That's some hella expensive software when you take a good look at it. But that said, I really like Plottr, and I have actually considered paying for it before, and I'm kind of still on the fence with that because it's really fun to use and I like it. But it comes with one very important caveat here. It absolutely shines in character design and outlining and plotting, but it really falls flat in everything else. I would say that at best it's an entry-level app that works really well, but you should probably use it in conjunction with other writing software. I am going to give it 6.5 out of 10, round it off to 7 if you want to. If you have ever looked into free alternatives to Scrivener, I can guarantee that you have stumbled upon yWriter. But I have to warn you, I have used it before, and I really do not like yWriter. I don't want to sound ungrateful, it is 100% free, but a part of me is also tired of the notion that we have to praise and appreciate the things that we don't pay for. That said, this particular section is going to be super negative and super ranty, and I'm not going to apologize for it, but that said, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings here. If the person who designed yWriter happens to stumble upon this video, maybe don't watch from this point on. Firstly, what is this 1997 looking website? Why are they promoting it for Windows 7 and higher, including Windows 10, like this is a feat? I am very confused, what the H? On the website, the creator of yWriter explains that it's a word processor that helps you keep track of your progress and development. Also that he's a programmer and a storyteller who never would have been able to write or publish 30 books if not for yWriter, the software that he himself designed. I find that hard to believe. It seems a bit self-relating, but whatever, we all have to hustle. I don't blame him for using such cheesy marketing techniques. It's just like, that's bullshit. Like, come on, guy. Seriously? But as for the software itself, I fucking hate it. I'm sorry. I really do.
So this is what yWriter looks like. I am so bored even just looking at it, but let me actually open the project. I do not know what the hell is going on here. I did not add all of these chapters. At some point I might have said that yWriter worked really well, but I might have to retract that statement because I did not add this. I added that one and added that one, and that was as far as I got. This is what the scenes look like. There's a ton of stuff that you could fill in if you really wanted to, if you had the patience for doing that. Oh, also, one gripe that I have with the software is that when you open it, it tells you to start by adding a chapter or a scene, which makes no sense considering that you need things like characters or locations or items to actually fill out this information, and I don't see the point in starting with the chapters if you're just going to have to go back into every single one of them to link the things that need to be linked. But yeah, this is the only little editor thing that I could find.
I don't think that yWriter has a manuscript function. I tried to Google it and just ended up with more questions than answers. It seems that yWriter was intended to break your story up into teeny tiny little bite-sized pieces, but it's also confusing because it places so much emphasis on how it helps you write and develop and build your story, but like, how are you supposed to do that if the screen to type in is that big? Maybe I just have it wrong. This is the most unintuitive piece of software I have ever used in my life. I don't know, you tell me. Can you write a manuscript in yWriter? Because it doesn't look like you can.
And then you have project notes if you want to fill them out. Here's your character list, and this is what your character screen looks like. Now, of course, mine is very empty because I didn't want to spend 12 years writing in this app. You can add pictures. This is an old one of Damien. Drawn by the same person who drew the characters for me this time around. This is what the locations look like. You can add a picture. I just didn't do that. You can add tags. And you have an items tag. Got a little preview of your chapter here, the list there. And then at the bottom, the same information.
It's just so boring and tedious. Literally, the only word that comes to mind when I think of yWriter is tedious.
So let's just go through some of its other features. Firstly, I want to say that its new project wizard is so dumb. It literally just tells you to input the name of your story and that's it. You can renumber your chapters pretty easily. One feature that I did like about the software is that you can create multiple scenes at once. You can just set a number and it will create them. It's got editing features and like polishing features as well. Just things to make your life easier, like deleting duplicate scenes. So that's pretty cool. We've got some sorting functions as well, like here to show the scenes that the characters are in. And then you can display the scenes list. And then there's its storyboard, which is one of the worst storyboards I've ever seen.
The pros of yWriter are that it has a lot of features. It has absolutely no bells and whistles if you are the sort of person who likes the no bullshit binder style. It runs smoothly, would you believe? I have not had any performance issues with it. And it's free, 100% free. But its cons are that it's really unpleasant to work in. Working in it is the most tedious thing I've ever done in my life. It's completely unintuitive and difficult to use. It has a huge learning curve, and I don't feel like that learning curve is worth the effort. Its interface sucks. It really does make creative writing feel like work, and even though it does a lot, I really don't feel like it does those things even half as well as all of the other similar apps that you could use to do them. Yes, yWriter is free, but that doesn't mean that it's good. Have some self-respect. It could work really well for planning and note-taking, but my problem is that every time I use it, I can literally feel my bones turning to dust. I would say use it if you literally have no other options, if you prefer undecorated software, and if you have absolutely no need for a manuscript feature in your writing software. I would not dream of using this for world building or story development because the software is so tedious that it managed to take those things, which are supposed to be fun, and make them the most dull, tedious things in the world. On a serious note, I feel like the dude who created yWriter had a very specific system that worked for him, and that's fantastic. If it worked for him, great, and if it works for you, great. But me and him are like North and South Pole in how we get writing done. It just doesn't do it for me. I've given it multiple chances, and I just can't. I'm sorry, I hate yWriter. Mostly because it doesn't include a single feature that I actually like and want to use. I don't know if it's the design of yWriter, or if it's just really that the software is bad. I'm not sure. All I can say, this is going to be really harsh, but I mean it. I have never disliked story building as much as I did when I was using this software. I literally couldn't even find the will to input 4 chapters and a couple of characters to show you what the software is like. That is how painfully tedious it is. There is absolutely no way in hell that I would ever use yWriter to plan an entire 6-book fantasy series. Hell no, 1 out of 10. Now, let's talk about Novel Factory. I have a lot to say about Novel Factory, so I'm going to do this entry a little bit differently, by which I mean I'm going to show you the software first, and then we'll visit its website. You will understand shortly.
So Novel Factory has this pretty handy roadmap, which is partly just a guide on how to use the software, but it's also a guide on how to write good stories. There is a ton of information in this little resource. As for the actual software itself, so this is what's under your premise and synopsis. Here's the plot manager, which looks really, really nice. So here at the top it has your chapters or your sections, and then in the columns it has the individual scene cards that you can scroll through. Adding chapters is fairly simple. Just input the name and it puts it in the grid for you. You can also use these plot templates, which tell you what to write where, based off of different stories or different story arcs, and also screenplay and a short story. I did not use this, but they're pretty handy. Like, they show you exactly what should be happening in your story and where. Or you can just add the index cards. No questions asked, it'll just populate it into this grid. Obviously, you can move the cards around. Then we have the subplot manager, but I didn't fill this in. I just didn't really feel like it, and also it already has a working example, like right there. You can link the characters or hide the linked characters, and the scenes, and all of the other elements that you can add in the story or in your manuscript. Speaking of the manuscript, this is what it looks like. It looks really good. And yeah, the formatting options are a teeny tiny bit limited. There isn't really much you can do, but considering that I copied and pasted all of this in here, that looks pretty good, especially compared to the other softwares that were completely messing that up. But let's go to a chapter and not an insert. These are what the chapters look like. I didn't add any headings or anything like that. And then here on the side is the information that you've attached or linked, the particular scene that's happening, the character, you can add the weather, the date and time of the scene, and you can also edit this goal to decision cycle, which I did not do because I was too lazy, but you can add these things if you want to: goal, conflict, disaster reaction, dilemma, decision, resolution, and incident. Then we get to the character page, which looks really good. I like this grid view of them. So the ones without pictures are the secondary characters, and the ones with pictures are the main characters, obviously. And they look so pretty all together, and I really like Novel Factory because it's just so aesthetic. So this is what Damien's one looks like. You can link things if you really want to. Link Matthew there. There you go. Maybe I will link Black Decker. There you go. So you can link all of these things on the side, but let's just do away with that for now. This is what the character sheet looks like. Obviously, I'm not going to go through all of that, but there's a section for the backstory and the personality and their appearance and their friends and family and their past and future and their love and relationships and their conflicts and their work and their education and their hobbies and their favorite things and their possessions. And like, there's just so much. Then by locations, it's pretty straightforward. Same concept with the cards and stuff, where you can link things if you want to here. So Nailka comes from Nyarden, so he can be linked there, but we'll do away with that for now. And then yeah, here's the basic information that I filled in. You can add pictures if you want, you can add a description, information about its people, how it looks and feels and smells, and its landscape, and its climate, and its flora and fauna, and its population, and all of these different things. Like, it really is a lot. And then there's items. I don't really have that many items in the Fifth Warrior. This is literally the only one that I could think of. There's a little notes page. So I just added a whole bunch of notes just to play around with this. So these are the ones that I copied and pasted. And then I linked to my album, because you can add links. And also, in case you didn't know, I have recorded and released an album. And this is pretty cool. You can add checklists. Yeah, you can move them around if you want to, sort of like a pinboard or corkboard or whatever you want to call it. And then, finally, there is the statistics page that just has some data about your story.
Suffice to say, Novel Factory is a damn dream. It is perfection. It is so fun to work in it, and it gets to the point without diluting itself or any of its features, but at the same time, planning with it is super fun, but absolutely not overkill. And also, it has really good features without unnecessary bells and whistles. I am literally in love with Novel Factory, okay? Its pros are that it is sleek and streamlined and aesthetic. It has a shed ton of writing resources and guidelines and templates. It is super intuitive and easy to work with. And most importantly, it's just so satisfying to use. Its cons are that it has limited editing features and that it's missing a couple of world-building features, like for languages or creatures. And there isn't really anything that you can do about that except making random notes and keeping your information there or using other software. When I first used Novel Factory, I absolutely convinced myself that it was as close to perfect as it is possible to get. It is literally what I'm looking for in every single way. And it's also a really good tool for writers of all skill levels, whether you're a newbie writer who doesn't know where to start or a seasoned writer looking for a springboard on a new project, right? Novel Factory is incredible. Now, you may be thinking that it's the clear winner of the day because I'm literally kissing its ass and its only 2 cons are technically nitpicks, but there, my friend, you would be so wrong. Novel Factory betrayed me, and it is the absolute worst one on this list. Please sit down. Okay, you need to sit down for this, and if you have a heart condition or something, just be on high alert because you're in danger. This fucking software costs $600 a year on its premium plan. 600 American dollars a year. And what is that $600 for?
As you can see here, the basic version is $75 a year or $7.50 a month. But what's included in the basic version is 1 novel. You only get to work on 1 novel. You get 50 megabytes of storage and all of the other features, right? So you're just limited in the storage space and how many books you can work on. So then with the standard, which is $198 a year or $20 a month, you get unlimited novels and 500 megabytes of storage, and then all the features are included just like in the basic version, right? So the premium, which is $60 a month, or the issue here, $600 a year, you get unlimited novels, just like in the standard version, and you get all features included, just like in the standard version. So the only difference is that you get 5 gigabytes of storage. Somebody make it make sense.
$600 a year for 5 gigabytes of storage. What the fuck? Now, yes, some of you out there might be thinking that you don't have to pay the $600 a year, but it's the principle of the thing for me. These people are out here charging $600 a year for writing software, and the only difference between the $600 a year and the not $600 a year plans are 5 gigabytes of storage. I cannot, in good conscience, recommend this to anyone, not on any plan, okay? Just don't get Novel Factory because, I'm sorry, charging that amount of money for the software is obscenely criminal, and it should be illegal to charge people $600 every single year for 5 gigabytes of storage. So, Novel Factory, as close to perfect as it is, can kindly go and fuck itself. I am giving it 0 out of 10. In fact, I am giving it minus 600 out of 10. That is what I am going to do. Please don't buy Novel Factory. It is 100% a ripoff. I need to wash Novel Factory's taste out of my mouth, so let's move on to Campfire, which is one of my new favorite things. As with Novel Factory, I have to do things a little bit differently for this entry. Remember at the beginning of the video when I said that I want to deep dive into World Anvil, so I'm saving my creative energies and screen recording capacity for that video. What I actually want to do is make a video comparing World Anvil to Campfire, because they're basically 2 peas in a pod and it seems that they're in direct competition with each other, and I want to do a video similar to this one where I completely explore all of the features, deep dive into each one, and tell you which one I think is better. But when I make that video, I actually really want to use that as an opportunity to set both of them up for me professionally, you know, like for my story, and see if people like it and what feedback I get, and see if people want to follow me there, and, you know, take the opportunity to build an audience. So I'm going to have to put a lot more time into Campfire than I did with any of the other softwares that I mentioned in this video. So because of that, I did not add anything to do with my story into Campfire. I tried, but I think it's better if I just leave my story out of this completely, because I really do feel like Campfire speaks for itself. So I'm just going to give you a general overview. First and foremost, I think that Campfire has an absolutely genius payment system. You can use it for free, but it is quite limited, or you can pay for what you want, and only what you want, which I think is pretty cool.
They explain that Campfire is a suite of interwoven tools that they call modules. The modules are essentially the features that you can use in Campfire, so what's great about this is that you can pay for the ones that you need or will use and not have to pay for the ones that you're never going to use. So for example, if you need more than 25,000 words in your manuscript, you pay $1.50 a month. If you want to add some characters to your project, then it will be $2.50 a month. Let's say you don't need a timeline, you don't need a calendar, you want the encyclopedia articles, so that'll be $3.50 a month. It's really cool. I can't think of anything else that is set up this way, at least not in the world of writing. And what's also great is that they have monthly, annual, and lifetime payment plans. So using the manuscript as the example again, it would be $15 a year, or $45 once off forever. So if I went for the lifetime plan on all of the elements that I want here, it would come to about $180. My math could be off, but that is the conclusion I came to. I don't know if I will buy the lifetime ones for now, which is another great thing about this setup here. If I don't have $180 to blow on Campfire in this moment, maybe this month I want the lifetime manuscript feature, and next month I want the lifetime characters feature, then I can do that.
Fair enough, this could add up to a lot of money very quickly, depending on how many modules you are buying, and also whether or not you're going for lifetime or monthly. But I still think it's great that you have some control over how much you're spending on the software.
Campfire has a lot of resources, writing guides, advice videos, tutorials, stuff like that. But let's start a new project. It's going to be completely blank, but I just want to show you what Campfire can do. So this is the dashboard. Obviously it is empty because I have not input anything here. Anyway, I just want to quickly go through all of the features that Campfire has. So you have character sheets where you can set all of the information for your character. You can add an image if you want to, fill out all of the information. But what's really cool about these Campfire panels is that you can customize them. So here by the attributes, these are the things that you can choose from that you want to display. Oops, in the grid. Okay, we selected favorite foods. But then there's also career options, hobbies and interests, magical and martial abilities, personality, physical traits, relationships, and even character sheets for tabletop role-playing games. So you can customize them fully. You can take away the information you don't need, and you can add the things that you actually want to display. These screens are also customizable. You can move them around and design them. So if you wanted your picture to take up a lot of this window, then you could do that. You can shift them around and you can resize them as well. The manuscript feature is kind of basic. There isn't really editing options here or formatting options, but it does have a lot of fonts. And then you can link other elements like your characters or your locations or whatever here on the side. With locations, it's pretty much the same as the characters, just that the attributes are completely different. So you still have all of the customization options here, but obviously it's to do with places and not people, but the same applies. You can move these around, you can resize them, add images if you like. You can upload maps if you like, or you can import directly from Incarnate. Here in the research tab, you can just add all the research that you find in your writing journey, including images, PDFs, text files, or you can just like type here if you want to, videos and links. The timeline is empty, obviously, because I haven't added anything, but this is what it looks like, and you can move things around. It's got more features up here, like here you can change the view. You can also set the calendar that you're using. Then, speaking of the calendar, it does bring it up like as an actual calendar that you can view. It's just not letting me do that because I've run out of elements to use on the free version. You can set your character arcs here, and the cool thing that I literally just realized is that even though I deleted the project for the 5th Warrior, these elements are still in Campfire, so I can link them to this project without having to redo them, which is fantastic. I can't add any more relationships because I'm using the free version for now, but it's basically the same as the timeline. This is really cool. You can have wiki-style articles on anything and everything in your story, and this is probably the part that I'm looking forward to the most when I set Campfire up for myself. And yeah, I don't want to take too much time showing you the features. I would like to save some of that for the next video, but you can set magic systems, species, your cultures, your items, your systems, your languages, your religions, and your philosophies as well. They all look pretty similar to the screens that I've shown you, whether it's the timeline or the character sheets.
Campfire is also the most beautiful story development software I have ever come across in my whole entire life. It's so gorgeous. I want to eat it.
The really cool thing that I want to show you about Campfire is how customizable it is. So here under View, if you go to Manage Themes, you can set the aesthetic of Campfire. So let's say romance. And it changes how it looks. Keep in mind you can customize all of these things as well, like I said, so you can move them around, you can add images, you can really like design what these pages actually look like, and I am absolutely in love with it. Let's go to crime, why don't we? And that's what it looks like now. I really like that font. Let's check out one more urban fantasy, since the 5th Warrior is an urban fantasy story. It's just really cool. I know that I didn't go into too much detail about the features and functions in this one. I just wanted to show you a general overview of what Campfire can do and why it's so cool. Also, sorry about the screaming. I'm actually recording this part during the day and I live next door to a kindergarten, so fuck my life.
Campfire also has some of the most comprehensive world building and character creation features I have ever come across as well. This means that number 1, it is so fun to use, and number 2, it actually really does have the potential to inspire people to become the writers and story builders and world builders that they want to be, because you can literally immerse yourself in your own story, and I think that that's fantastic. There's also a community aspect to this. You can share your work and grow followers, and you can get feedback as well. And you might even get people that, choose to support you, so technically you could nurture a professional writing career through Campfire if you work hard enough at it. The pros of Campfire are that it's beautiful, it's fun, and it's also easy to use. It covers literally all the world building bases. It has an insane amount of features. It's customizable. I would say that it's fully customizable, but I don't actually know how far that goes, so it's really, really customizable. You can grow your writing career on it. The payment plan is perfection, and it has mobile and desktop apps. The cons are that it's not so good for writing, editing, and formatting. It's also not that handy for storyboarding, I would say. And the free version is a little bit too limited to be of any use to serious world builders or writers. Oh, and that the price could add up very quickly, but I mean, that's up to you. It doesn't feel fair to add that as a con. If you're spending too much money on Campfire, that's kind of your own fault. Campfire is one of the most sophisticated world builders I have ever found, and I absolutely love it. I would have given it a perfect 10 any other day, but since the point of this video was to find the best overall story development software, not just for world building, I'm going to have to knock a point off there because it is a bit lacking in the actual plotting, planning, writing, and editing departments. That said, it's so close to perfect, so I'm going to give it 9 out of 10, which is a tough score to beat. And so we get to Scrivener, the reigning champion, according to the whole entire world. As I said, I tried Scrivener once before and it absolutely was not for me. I really didn't understand why everybody was losing their minds for it, or what was so innovative or helpful about it. It was difficult to use, it was tedious to learn, and a lot of its functions felt completely unnecessary. I almost got the impression that people only used Scrivener because they wanted to look like writers, if you know what I mean. But that raises the question, how do I feel about it now? It costs $59 once off, and it claims to be designed for endless writing. It says that you can build your manuscript your way, and even use the software to get your book publish ready, among other things. So once again, I kind of have to cheat with this little entry here. You see, I was kind of already using Scrivener to work on The Fifth Warrior and to rewrite it, and I was too lazy to start a new project and input everything that I had already input. So I'm just gonna show you the Scrivener project that I already have. Forgive me, at this point I had been testing software for like days upon days upon days, and it just felt so pointless considering that I would have just deleted the test project, but I'm going to use the one that I'm already using, so let me show you that. When you open Scrivener for the first time, it prompts you to go through the user tutorial, which is this. I'm not going to go through everything in it because it's way too much information. I just wanted to show you how incredibly detailed it is. This is everything that you have to go through. It even warns you that it would take about an hour to complete the tutorial, which is insane. But onto my project. I just want to say that mine is very incredibly basic because I'm still working on it, and I've mostly been using Scrivener to edit a book that I have already written. I don't have the entire book in here. As you can see, it's just the first 4 chapters in the prologue because I'm adding the text as I go. So yeah, it's very empty, it's very basic. I have been working off of the novel template. I feel like other people have more interesting Scrivener-related videos. You would have to search for them, but if you want a detailed look at exactly how Scrivener works and everything that you can do in it, I would recommend just searching for that on YouTube, because my project is not going to portray Scrivener in the best light. Which leads to another point that I want to make. Scrivener does not look like much, and what I'm going to show you might seem like it pales in comparison to the other software that I have explored in this video. It's very difficult to explain, but I feel like Scrivener is one of those things where you have to try it for yourself to understand. That said, let me show you what I've got going on here. So the gist of Scrivener is that this here on the side is your binder, which you can customize as you wish. I'm obviously using the template. And yeah, the gist is that you create folders. So for example, the manuscript here is a folder, and then you can create subfolders. So the prologue would be a subfolder, and then you have your files inside that. So these are the different scenes. You can change the view to the corkboard if you want to, or you can view it as an outline if you want to. This would be for your entire project, or at least in the manuscript itself. So with the corkboard, you can move these things around if you want to, but obviously I'm not going to do that. And you can also shift them around here if you really wanted to. And then it would be the same with chapter 1 and all of the chapters, all of the material that would be in your book. Let me show you what the manuscript looks like. So this is what the text editor looks like. I think it's pretty great. It has quite a few formatting functions. You can even add styles if you want to, so even though it is missing some things that like full-on word processors have, you can work around it because it implements styles into it. You can also use syntax in Scrivener, but I don't do that, so I can't show you. Another cool feature that I think is pretty nifty is that you can work in 2 different windows. So if you want to have your reference material in this one and work in this one, you can do that. If you want to have your first draft here and your revisions here for comparison, you can do that. That is something that I don't think any of the other softwares I tried implement, so Scrivener gets bonus points for that. And then you also have a lot of metadata that you can add here. So you can add your synopsis, you can add notes if you want to, you can bookmark it, you can add tags and labels, and you can categorize things, you can add keywords, you can take snapshots of your project so that you don't lose earlier drafts, and of course, you can add comments and footnotes. We have a characters folder. You can create a character based off of a template where you can fill out all of the information you like, or as you can see, you can start from scratch, copy paste, which is what I did, or just, type in the actual text editor. You can add images, you can add pretty much whatever you want to this document, because at the end of the day, that's really all that it is, a document. And then the same with places, but I don't have any added here. It would be the exact same thing as the character file. Now, the cool thing about Scrivener is that you don't have to work with just these 2 things. If I wanted to create a new folder for creatures, or for, I don't know, have a separate folder for secondary characters, or if I wanted to list the magical items, or have an entire separate document on the world history or whatever, you can add those folders here, and they will function the exact same way as all of the others, and then you can arrange your material, your information, any way you want, or you can just use other people's pre-formatted templates that have little folders or categories for absolutely everything you could possibly imagine when it comes to world building or outlining or anything. And this little binder here is, technically speaking, fully customizable, and you can use it however you see fit. The gist of this is that it is what yWriter was trying to be. So you can add your scenes here, and then you can rearrange them however you see fit. You can write your book in any order you need to write it in, and then just drag them and drop them into the positions they're supposed to be in, and it will compile it as a complete manuscript that flows from beginning to end, which is really handy. And I feel like all of the other softwares claim that you can use them to do that, but then it doesn't really work that well at the end of the day. But with Scrivener, it really does. And then just to show you some other features that I feel are worth mentioning. So here, you can label them, obviously, you can color code them. And then when it comes to your folders, this is a completely useless feature, but I still like it. You can change the little icon for it. So let's say that, because it's a manuscript. So yeah, you can change the little icons there. It's not much, but it is fun, and I do like it. Scrivener has a little scratch pad, so if you want your notes separate, if you just need like a little sticky tab thing, then you can do that here. And it also has a composition mode, which takes away all of the distraction of Scrivener itself. If you wanted to, you could also change the layout and the theme. You can set it to revision mode if you want to. And it will show you some statistics about your story. You can view your writing history. You can obviously bookmark your projects, and you can set targets for your writing. You can also change the settings for the entire document or project file if you really wanted to, but I have not really explored the settings of Scrivener. It also has quite a few settings that you can change that will affect how exactly the functions of Scrivener work, depending on how you want them to. And it's got a lot of settings or little features for editing and for publishing as well, but I have not explored all of them. I don't feel qualified enough to talk about them. Again, if you want a detailed look at how Scrivener works, I am currently not the person to ask, so I would encourage you to dig a little bit deeper in that regard. The biggest problem that I have with Scrivener is that it is the furthest thing from user-friendly. When you first get started with Scrivener, you have to read through a 100 or so page manual, or else you literally won't know what you're doing. You will be lost at sea, with no hope of finding your way back to land. But once I got the hang of Scrivener, kind of, sort of, I'm still finding my way around it, but once I got the hang of Scrivener, I started wondering where it had been my whole entire life. I can honestly say that it has never been this easy to actually work on my book, or fix it up, or edit it, or structure it. And I have legitimately made more progress fixing up the Fifth Warrior in the week that I used Scrivener than I have in all the years I've been procrastinating with it. So the pros of Scrivener are that it runs like a dream. I did not have any performance issues with Scrivener, and like I've said many times throughout this video, my laptop is a piece of shit, so it's great. It has all the features, like all of them. It's apparently good for publishing. I wouldn't know about that, but it has the features, which I think is pretty cool. Of all of the writing software, I would say that it has the highest value for money, and also it's a once-off payment, so that's great. And the binder itself is fully customizable, but if that's too much to take on, you can download other people's templates and start there, which is super handy. As for its cons, the biggest one is that it has a learning curve the size of Mount Everest. It's also not the most aesthetic or visually pleasing software. It doesn't really have any fun features, and this is not so much a con as it is something to keep in mind. But Scrivener will only work as well as you make it work. Scrivener is not easy to get into, but once you do, it is the most efficient way to build a story or a story bible and to keep track of the project that you are working on. Mostly because Scrivener is what you need it to be. It is literally useful and perfect for all different types of writers. It doesn't matter what genre you're working on, it doesn't matter what length your project is, it doesn't matter if you're writing a book, or a script, or a thesis, or whatever. It works for all of that. It also doesn't matter if you're a plotter, or a pantser, or a worldbuilder, or a character designer, or a researcher, or an editor, or a casual writer. Although if you are a casual writer, I don't know why you would spend that much time learning how to use Scrivener. All I'm saying is that if you did have to learn how to use Scrivener, it would work really well for that as well. Even if you're writing short stories, Scrivener works for literally everything. I do wish that it was a little bit more interesting to look at, and that it didn't take itself so seriously, if you know what I mean. But at the end of the day, the point of writing software is to build and write stories. It doesn't have to be aesthetic. So yeah, Scrivener pretty much nails it if you are willing to commit to it, and if you can look past how formal it is. So, like Campfire, I am going to give it 9 out of 10. So, if Campfire and Scrivener both got 9 out of 10, which one am I going to crown the best writing/story development software of them all? Will it be Campfire the cool kid, or Scrivener the old master? Well, would you believe the winner is Scrivener? It's Scrivener. I don't know what else to tell you. The hipsters were right. The reason why Scrivener is the best story development software that I could find is very simple. It's the only one that isn't lying when it says it's the only writing software that you need. It literally has every feature and every function that you could possibly imagine or dream of. And while not all of them are perfect, they're still pretty damn good. Yes, I do want a little bit more aesthetic and fun and stat blocks and cute little character avatars in the writing software that I use, but I don't need those things to effectively and efficiently plot and plan and write and edit a 6-book urban fantasy series. When I think about it, of all of the software that I've researched and tested, Scrivener is the only one that can do literally everything that I need to do for the series. From the plotting, to the outlining, to the world building, to the character design, to the research, to the actual writing, and the revision, and technically the publishing too. Also, a huge benefit to Scrivener is that it doesn't cost $600 a year. On a serious note though, I think that Scrivener has the highest value for money of all of the software that I tried, because if you really think about it, $59 or 999 South African rands is really not that obscene, considering what you get out of the software and that it's a once-off payment with a lifetime license. Like, that is a small investment for incredibly good software. But even though the hipsters are probably having a field day because a former naysayer has finally come around and admitted that maybe they had a point, I want to end off by saying this. I personally feel that the best writing software is actually a combination of them. For example, I'm going to use Campfire for character design and world building, and I'm going to use Scrivener for literally everything else, because I'm not crazy about Scrivener's world building and character design features. They are there, they are good, I just don't like them, so I'm gonna fill that void with Campfire. I feel like a lot of the time when it comes to writing software and tools, the industry likes to push this idea that you have to pick a team and commit to one and pledge your undying allegiance to one. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can use all the writing software if you want to. You don't have to choose one and forfeit all of the others. Maybe you want to use Aeon Timeline to keep track of your history and your family relationships and, you know, family trees and stuff like that. But you want to use, I don't know, Dabble to actually get the writing done. That's perfectly fine. That's perfectly valid. Maybe you want to use Plottr for outlining and Scrivener for world building. That's also perfectly valid. You don't have to choose just one. So even though I'm saying that Scrivener is undoubtedly, objectively the best one of them all, don't feel pressure to use it if you don't want to use it. And even if you do use it, feel free to explore the others. What could you possibly lose? Just not Novel Factory, okay? In conclusion, as cliche as this might sound, the best writing software is the software you like using the most, because that's what you're going to work in and actually get stuff done in. So use that one. That said, just to reiterate, Scrivener is objectively the best one because it has the best and most comprehensive features and functions. It covers literally all bases, and it would literally suit every single type of writer. That is objective. No doubt about it, Scrivener is the best one in a landslide, no contest. It just had to be said. If you actually took time out of your day to watch this whole video, I just want to say that I put a lot of effort into making it, so although I don't want to sound like those YouTubers that like beg for attention, if you enjoyed this, if you found it even remotely helpful or mildly entertaining, please like this video, you know, maybe give me some validation. That would be much appreciated. Also, let me know in the comments which writing software you use and like the most, and also if you would like to see more videos like this in future. I know that I don't post consistently, but I'm trying to get back into it because I am working on my story again, and at some point I'm going to be done with that, and then I'm going to want to promote it, so I'm trying to get back in the game. So yeah, let me know if you enjoyed this, and if you want to see similar videos like the Campfire versus World Anvil one. And finally, check out the links in the card/description. There's some videos on world building there. I also went into more detail on my story. There's some videos regarding the Fifth Warrior for you to check out if you want to. And just one last request. if you're keen, don't forget to click on the Pro Writing Aid referral link, because I really want a free lifetime license for Pro Writing Aid, and it would mean the world to me if you did. Anyway, I am going to shut up now. That is all from me. I need to edit this video that took a week to make, so I'm gonna get started on that. $2.